Although the Senate is advancing the first immigration-related bill of the new Congress, the Laken-Riley Act. It, of course, is named for the 22-year-old Georgia nursing student who was so savagely murdered by an illegal immigrant last year. That suspect found guilty, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison. Now, the bill mandates arrest and detention of illegal immigrants charged with crimes. Most Senate Democrats helped the GOP get the bill past a procedural hurdle after the House has already passed it. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says it's about time.
I'm actually very pleased to see that we've got a number of our Democrat colleagues who have changed their tune on this and have allowed us to debate the bill. And quite frankly, I would say that's overdue. We should have passed this last year to ensure that this kind of tragedy never happens again.
Jay Chabria is with us, partner at MAD Global Strategies, advised a lot of politicians, including Vice President-elect Vance, on a variety of issues. So, Jay, good to see you. What do you think about the fact that this Laken-Riley bill could very much soon become law?
Well, a couple things here. First, it means Republicans mean business. They're responding to the will of the voters. Number two, it really does show how strong a mandate that Donald Trump had. Look, it's been debated since the election. Democrats like to say he doesn't have a mandate. I think the fact that Democrats have now come on board and are willing to take a look at this, they're willing to pass it in bigger numbers, that really shows how powerful Donald Trump is in his agenda. But the reason that they're really looking at it is because they know the voters are pretty angry at them in the past for what they did in the past and not being responsive. And that's where we are right now. And I think it's going to pass. I think it's going to be debated, and it'll probably be made a little bit better, but it's going to pass, and Laken-Riley deserves this. Some of the Democrats, though, are opposed to it.
Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, he wants language, for example, that children who are undocumented, if they shoplift, they, would not be deported, as well as limit it to if you're convicted of a crime. Apparently, the language now is if you're suspected or charged, but not yet convicted. I mean, do you think that language will be massaged in some way? You know what they're doing on Capitol Hill. Can that change? What do you think will happen with that?
Yeah, look, I think when it gets debated on the floor, it's going to change a little bit, and it's going to be updated, and it might be made a little bit better, a little bit stronger in other areas. But the fact of the matter remains that this is pretty common sense. Really, what it does is it gives states more power to enforce this with attorney generals. It allows illegal immigrants to be detained. And number three, there's another third part of this too. It really the countries that don't want to take back these deportees, when we deport them, it restricts visas to from those countries. So it's really common sense legislation, and I think it's going to become law. And I think Donald Trump. And the fact of the matter is, the Congress is debating this right away. That tells you exactly how important this is and how responsive they're being to the will of the people. That's a pretty big deal, and I think it portends good things for other pieces of legislation that Donald Trump wants to pass.
Yeah, it's happening really fast. Meanwhile, the co-sponsored Democratic Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. Here's Senator Fetterman talking about the bill.
If we as a party, as Democrats, we can't come up with 7 or 8 votes, then I would describe that as one of the reasons why we lost. I hope for our party, I hope it has shifted, but that's not a criticism, but that's just, I happen to believe, like I said, what I happen to believe, following what I think is my truth.
He's been seen as a voice of common sense to some. Do you think his party will follow?
Well, that's yet to be determined. I think there are going to be many that will follow, but the problem the Democrats have is that they for too long have to bend their knee to the woke mob. And they're going to have a little bit of a civil war in their party the next 2 years. They've got a very big election coming up in 2 years where they're going to try to take back at least the House of Representatives. Look, John Fetterman won the swing state, what has become the swing state. I think he has a lot of authority to preach to his party, and I think they should listen.
And he will be visiting President-elect Trump down in Mar-a-Lago, raising some eyebrows among some of his colleagues, but to show that he's willing to work in a bipartisan fashion.
That's right.
Jay, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Eric.
Arthur?